what we are talking about, element is a component of the pay or compensation given to an employee. Okay? The employee can be anything. It can be a basic salary, housing allowance, transport allowance, medical premium, bonus, vacation leave, paid time off, car, house, alimony, child support, taxes. All these things are the same. So all these things are elements. So element is a component of the salary paid to an employee. So elements can be recurring, non-recurring. Elements can be it can be recurring element that comes in every pay period, and non-recurring which cannot be come in every pay period. Okay? Salary is a
Okay.
recurring element paid to an employee, and bonus is a non-recurring element that is cannot be paid in every pay period, doesn't come. So priority of an element controls the order in which elements are processed. Priorities come like whatever the priorities is, that like 1 to 1000, whatever is the priority of element. That means if I want to process that element in my first payroll, then it will be 1, and it is the priority on the priority basis between 1 to 1000. What will be the range? Okay, that controls in which
Okay.
elements are supposed to be ordered. Every element has one or more input value. Okay? Every
Okay.
element has one or more input. Input value is anything that is required to process the element. If basic salary is 10,000 and housing allowance is 50,000 of the basic, so percentage of HR is the input value. Pay value is used by payroll engine to put the final amount payable to employees against that element. Input values can be type, number, character, date, and days. We can also define rules for each input value, for example, maximum, minimum, and default. So it can be anything. Input value can be maximum, minimum, or default. So what is the basic salary is 10,000 and housing allowance 50% of the basic. So percentage of HR is input value. Input value is what? Is the input value is the pay value. That means
Okay.
the final amount payable to employees against that element. So input values can be type, number, character, date, or days, everything, anything can be there. Okay? So
Okay.
that is the thing. Now coming to eligibility profiles. What is the eligibility rule for an element? Defines which employee is eligible for which element. It is linked to work structures, department, job, location, grade, position of payroll. To allow all employees to get an element, we can define a blank eligibility profile which ensures that every employee is eligible for that element. Suppose I create an eligibility profile. Eligibility profile is what? That means if you're eligible for that employee for an element, you are eligible for that element, you will be getting that element. But
Okay.
if you're not eligible for that employee, if you're eligible, it defines an element which employee is eligible for that element. Okay, so which employee is eligible for that element? So if you are not eligible for that,
Mhm.
eligible means like which employee is eligible for which element. So linked to work structures, department, job, location, grade, position, or payroll. So that is if it is linked to department, job, location, grade, position, or payroll. So it is that linking to in that. To allow all employees to get an element, we can define a blank eligibility profile. So blank eligibility profile means if you get a blank, which every employee which ensures eligible for the element. If the eligibility profile is not assigned, one can assign element to that employee. So if that to shows that element, you can to show all the element, all the employees, we get an employee, we can define a blank eligibility profile. That means if you are eligible, if you are not eligible for that, if you are eligible for that employee, we can define a blank eligibility profile. Blank eligibility profile means that means everybody is eligible for that element, and everybody is not eligible for that element.
Okay.
Okay, there is a blank eligibility profile. That means everybody is eligible for that element. And if you are assigning a non cannot like if you are restricting the data, that means you can have to assign that element. You cannot assign that element to the employee.
Okay.
It is element entry. Element entry is the actual element information that are associated with the person. Element needs to be qualified as a person so that can be associated with that person. This is done through element eligibility. Depending upon the specific requirement, the eligibility will be created for the persons, payroll, statutory unit, legal employee, and department. So element entries are for what? There are actual element information that are associated with any person. An element needs to be qualified as a person so that it can be associated with that person. This is done through element eligibility. So element eligibility is what? So you are eligibility will be created for the persons, payroll, statutory unit, legal employer, and department. So entry values correspond to the element input values. Element can be either recurring or non-recurring. Earnings is
Okay.
known as recurring element, while bonus is non-recurring element. Okay? So earnings is come as a recurring element, while bonus is a non-recurring element. And deductions are certainly more from the salary. So reductions can be voluntary or involuntary. Voluntary means you are voluntarily deducting some amount from your salary. So that is called taxes. But if you're not
Okay.
deducting something from your salary, that is donations. Donations means donations, involuntary reduction. That means that is a donation that that donation is coming from your this thing. Involuntary reductions. That means that you're not willing to deduct that amount from your salary, but still it is deducted. That is called involuntary reduction. That like some companies go for donations. So you have to do donations actually in your company. So how will you do the donation? So in this case, you do donations like this. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Balances means element, input values, eligibility profiles, and formula. So balances means what? Balances means element, input values, eligibility rules, and formula. So balances means what is the balances that you have. Element means what is the element that is assigned to it. Input values is what is the input values, which is pay value, which is going to be assigned to that thing. Eligibility rules are what? Eligibility rules is like what is the eligibility profile attached to that role. What is the eligibility? What is the eligibility rule attached to a profile? Okay? Formula means what formula is attached to that absences. Balances means like what accrued balance you have. Salary basis describes the duration of the salary entered for an employee. And salary basis describes the salary basis describes the duration of the salary. What do you understand by salary basis?
Salary basis, I have no much idea about that, but it should be, for example, I only know that salary basis for assigning an what is a basic salary basis should be there. That is the only thing I understood till.
Salary basis is the salary. That means it's a salary only. So it can be monthly, weekly, annually, anything. It's the duration of the salary, and a salary basis compensation. You can say it's a compensation that is the salary that you get. Okay. So change salary means like if you go for annualization factor. Annualization factor means like on an annual basis converts the entire amount into annual figure. That means suppose you're getting 6 lakhs of income. Okay. So it converts the entered amount into annual figure. It converts that 6 lakhs amount into annual figure. That means it converts that. Suppose you're giving 50,000. So 50,000 it will convert into annual figure.
Okay.
Yeah. It links the grades to grade rate. And it also links the element and its input value into which the salary is entered in the element entry stream. Okay, so that is the thing. Salary basis is linked to the employee in the change salary stream. In the change salary stream, when you go for change salary salary means like you have to change. If you are going through the change salary, it's a word called award compensation. I don't have the instance right now. I could have showed it to you. Change salary means like if you want to change the salary of the employee, then you can go to that option where salary basis is there. You can put in the salary amount. Okay. It's a salary that you're going to earn. Assignment means create an element called basic salary, where access is a name prefix. Input value can be flat amount. Create an eligibility rule for the elements. Create a salary basis called monthly salary. Link to the annual grade rates. Define and assign the monthly charge to employees through payroll relationship. Assign the salary to the employee to change salary stream. View the salary to element entries. Run the quick pay for the employee. Create an element called access basic salary. We access your name prefix. Create a basic salary. ठीक है? एक basic salary बनाना. Input values can be flat. This is an assignment. You have to do that assignment. I cannot show it because today will not do the practicals. I can show you the theory because they have not given me the instance.
Okay.
I cannot show about today. So input values can be anything. It can be pay value. It can be salary monthly basis linked to the annual grade rates. Define and assign the monthly salary to the employee through payroll relationship. Assign the salary to the employee to change salary stream. Use the salary to element entries. Run the quick favor for the employee. Okay? So how will you do it?
First, I'll try for my system. I will create one element. I will assign one basic salary to one employee and run a quick pay.
Sorry?
I will assign one basic salary to one employee and try to run a quick pay for that.
You will create an element called basic salary. Put some input value, flat amount to that. Create an eligibility rule. Then create a salary basis for monthly salary. Link that to the annual grade rates. and define and assign monthly salary to employees through payroll relationship. Assign the salary to the employees through change salary. So in the change salary, you can assign the salary and view the salary through element entries, run the quick pay for the employee. So that day I showed it to you how the quick pay works. Okay. So today I will show it to you, but I don't have the instance. How will I show? I will do the theory today. Then next day we'll do the practicals. Tomorrow we'll do the practicals. I'm not about the instance. Okay, now what are balances? Balances are what? It's a value that is accumulated over a period of time. That the result would be a value between money, hours, or any other numerical value. There are two main aspects of the balance. The period of time over which it is accumulated or calculated called the balance dimension, and input to the calculation of balance called balance fees. The task associated with managed balance definitions. A balance can be predefined, created by element templates, or can be user created. There are two components for balance dimensions and defined balances. So what is balances? The following are the defined, provided, classified: earnings, deductions, gross pay, and net pay. Okay? So balances are what? Balances are accumulated over a period of time. The end result of balance would be any value, be it money, hours, numerical value. There are two main aspects of the balance: the period of time over which it is calculated, accumulated, called balance dimension, and input for the calculation of balance called balance fees. Balance fees like input feed for the calculation of balance. That means balance fees means what are the inputs that you're giving to that balance is called balance fees. So what are balances? That is what are the that is accumulated over a period of time. It can be money, it can be hours, it can be numerical value. Okay? So balance can be predefined, it can be element entries. There are two components of balance: dimensions and defined balances. The following are the predefined balances. We have earnings, classified based on the criteria. We have earnings, deductions, gross, and net pay. Okay. Feeds are the definitions of what data values can be used for the accumulation of the balance. Feeds can be defined by the input values and the result values during the payroll run. The unit of measure for the input value in the balance should be the same. There are two types of balance feeds by element and balance feeds by classification. Balance feeds by element means indicates one or more element values to add or subtract to the balance. Balance feeds by classification means attaches the primary or secondary element classification that has a specific purpose of primary output value. Balance feeds by element means indicates one or more input values to add or subtract from the balance. That means one or more input value when you're adding to that or subtracting from the balance. But you have to attach it to an element. Then only you can feed that value. Feeds means you're putting that in some input values. Balance feed by classification means it attaches a primary or secondary unit event classification or subclassification and uses the input value that has specific purpose for primary output value. It attaches a secondary element classification and uses the input value that has specific purpose of a primary output. That means balance feed by classification means it has a specific purpose of which I will show you in the application when we work in instance. Now calculation cards. These are very important. Calculation cards are what? You can create and manage calculation cards at several different levels, from individual person to payroll statutory unit. Use the cards to capture information specific to person. Organizations such as employee tax filing status. We reported various highest levels at highest and lowest levels. Personal calculation cards, tax reporting unit calculation cards, and payroll statutory calculation cards. So what are calculation cards? We can create and manage calculation cards at several different levels, from individual person to payroll statutory unit. Use the cards to capture information specific to the person or organization, such as employee tax filing status. Use the cards to capture information specific to person or organization, such as employee. So without calculation cards, payroll will not run. So you need a calculation card at various levels, from individual person to payroll statutory unit. Use the cards to capture information specific to person or organization, such as employee tax filing status. We reported various levels, highest to lowest, means personal calculated card, tax reporting unit, payroll statutory unit. Okay? So calculation cards I will tell you about on the application.
Okay.
Proration. Proration is what? Can you do you understand what is proration and retropay?
Proration, we can say that if I have a medical leave, the salary will be paid after deducting the medical leave. Some calculation might be there, depending varies from company to
any changes in the application, which are salary changes, promotion, appraisal leave, that is called proration. And retropay is what? When payment for some backdated amount is going to the current pay period, it's called retropay. When payment for some backdated amount means, like suppose you have 2,000 and that balance amount is left. So how to update that balance? You will get a retropay amount. That is called retropay, backdated amount. That is going to be in the current pay period. So that is called getting your backdated amount in the current pay period is called retropay.
Okay.
So what are the object groups? Object groups, we have 3 groups: work relationship group, payroll relationship group, element group, deduction card group. So object groups are user-defined set of elements or people that restrict the items that are included in various processes and reports. It is a mechanism by which you can set up the definition to retrieve an appropriate set of element entries, which would be useful for payroll calculation. So there are 4 types of object groups. Element group, it limits the implements process for payroll or cost distribution sector. Payroll relationship group, it limits the person's process for data entry and reporting. Work relationship, it limits the person's process for human resources and reporting. Reduction card, it is a grouping of calculation cards for year-end processing based on legislation. Okay?
Okay.
So I will actually do the practicals for calculation cards, PRORATION, when I will get the instance details.
Yeah, because I thought this one practical payroll will be difficult. From theory only, I will not able to understand properly.
Payroll process sequence, the following flows can be done at any time to complete the full payroll cycle: calculate payroll, prepayment, make EFT payment, generate pay slips, costing of payment, and transfer to subledger. So all these things we are going to think